thank you for all of you for being here. I know Secretary Charan Singh, Secretary Smriti Saran, you and everybody else in this room is very, very busy. There are many, many, many things to do, probably all better than listening to me. So I feel a bit like Miss Saran. I feel a bit pressured. I think I could be wasting a lot of people's very valuable time. And on the other hand, Shobhini told me that I should keep it informal and that no slides, she insisted. So I can't just hide behind a wall of data, which is my usual protective apparatus. So what in other words, what I have to take recourse to is gossip, and so I'll tell you more anecdotes than anything else. I think they're not useless, because I think I've been working with this program since 2007. I think the first time I encountered this was in I think early 2007, and actually the first place where we went to visit, there was a partner who eventually we didn't end up partnering with. It was but the work they were doing, there was a group of I think very committed people who had been inspired by BRAC and who were implementing this program in the very south of the 24 Parganas, which is in West Bengal, where the sea basically is eating very fast into the soil. This is the very salinated deep south of West Bengal in the Sundarbans, where people worship a very specific local goddess called Bon Bibi. Both Hindus and Muslims worship this goddess. Why? Because she protects people from tigers. Because tigers come and eat people quite frequently. So this was the place where we first went to study this program, and part of the reason I think we didn't end up doing it is it looked really almost so dire that the idea of building enterprises there seemed a little bit remote. Where would yes, we would give them maybe livestock. Where would the livestock graze? There's no grazing. This is sort of almost the end of the world. And I remember going there coming back a bit disheartened. And then something exciting happened. So we were coming back, exciting, maybe in the wrong direction. We were coming back, and some of the people in the car got excited because we were walking back, and there's a woman selling crabs. And one of the people who was in the car with us was very excited, and they're very, very cheap. This place is nothing. It's worth going once to see what the nature of deprivation can be. These are places where half the year water comes into your house every day. So, and on the other hand, you get a lot of crabs free. They come walking into your house. So she was collecting the crabs. She wrapped them in a newspaper and gave it to this woman. And we should have paid more attention, but we didn't. On the way back, she suddenly said, I think the crabs have all left the package and are walking around. And suddenly we're in a car with a lot of crabs kind of wandering around. And there was huge panic in the car. And we basically all stopped the car, jumped out. And then there was half an hour spent catching the 10 crabs. I think we didn't manage to catch all 10. So there's always this last crab who was probably in the car somewhere and will bite somebody eventually, but we couldn't actually find it. So that was, I think, that was what I remember about the trip. But I also remember what I think makes this program particularly ambitious. I think the fact that this was being implemented in this place where, and we didn't do an evaluation, I can't say that it worked, but it was being evaluated in this place where almost no one even had a house where they didn't get flood water every day. That's just the idea that this is the kind of people you're trying to help. That suggests, and you're trying to help, what's more remarkable is you're trying to help these people with a one-time intervention. In other words, the idea is that we're going to help them for a year, maybe a year and a half, then they'll be on an autopilot. They're on their own. It's not a lifetime support. It's a one-time support, maybe sustained over some period of time, but it's one-time support. And with one-time support, we want to take people who really have nothing, no advantage that was ever given to them, and we're trying to imagine that they will be self-sustaining. So the program that we finally evaluated was a little bit less dire, but not much. We went to these villages in Murshidabad and we asked them, who is it that in these relatively poor villages in Murshidabad, who are the people who are the poorest in your village? And what was interesting and heartening was that there was relative agreement. People said X, Y, Z. And if you look at the list, it typically was the same set of people. Now then we actually did a survey to see if they were, just reporting, their cousins or was it accurate? And it was accurate except in one way. And the way it was not accurate was interesting. A lot of people especially people who are potentially from, I guess you would call gypsies, Bede, in people who live, and they're often excluded from the village. They live outside the margins of the village, in the shallow land next to the river. This is still the same river, the Ganges, and there is marshy land there, and some people live in that marshy land. And those people are often not counted as members of any village, because the village community actually doesn't consider them. So when we did the survey, we found that yes, anybody who's been named was actually poor, but some people were systematically excluded, and those people were actually among the poorest. So finally, the program included a lot of those people. And those people, I think what again I think it's worth emphasizing is the ambition of this. I heard Mr. Abed talk about this program many years ago, and what he emphasized was that he came onto this program because he realized that there were people who were so poor that he didn't want to give them microloans, and he wanted them to graduate to the normal poverty, in which case they could give them microloans. So that was and yet the idea was that we will do one thing and they'll become normal poor. That's the vision. That's the very radical vision that it starts from. And I think that's the vision that we set out to evaluate. So in this program, over the years I met many of the beneficiaries. I think I was when the program was first implemented, I got to give away a cow. So when the cow was given away, I was holding the rope of the cow. And I must say that it's less easy than you think, because the cow doesn't want to go that way. The cow wants to go that way. And then you're sort of dragging it and and then somebody actually quickly, nudged the cow with a stick or something, and the cow went in the right direction. So but finally the cow was given away and program was implemented. And in the process, I met many of these women, and over the many years, I've met many of them. And what's remarkable about them, I'll tell you one story about one of these women, not because it's representative, but it, I think, gives a very good idea of what we are up against, the nature of the extreme poverty. So she said that, she had originally, husband used to beat her, so she ran away and hid in the forest I think maybe in Betu Adhori or one of these forests in Nadia. And then she was hiding in the forest, and there were tigers there, and so she used to stay up in the tree with her children and collect fruits during the day. And she did that for a couple of years. And then somehow somebody from a village let her stay in their house and be a relatively poor family took her on as a maid. And she worked as a maid. But with her children, that was difficult. And so she was really having a hard time coping. Because what would the children do? And so this was her life. And then this program arrived in her life, and her choice was not a cow. She had decided that she would buy trinkets and sell them. So fine, that's a good idea. The guy who was supposed to mentor her took her to a bus stop, took her on the bus, took her to, I think, to Bada Bazaar in Calcutta. She bought, or I don't know, some market, I don't actually know where. She bought, probably not Bada Bazaar, it's so far, must be but she bought trinkets, she went back, she sold it. She sold it, and the next time, he told her, yes, now you go buy more trinkets, you have money from selling it. So she said, go. So she went, and then she came back, and she called him and said, you told me to go, but the green bus never came. So she never taken a bus by herself. So she didn't know that buses go by numbers, not by color. So she was waiting for the green bus to come, and the green bus never came, so she never went to the market. So finally, so she said, then I had to learn to identify numbers. I needed to know how numbers were written before I could be an active participant in this program. And you actually need to know. So she learned to count. Then she learned to read. She's an extraordinarily impressive woman. But nonetheless, I think the first step of that was actually critical. And in that sense, I think to emphasize the starting point, and it's a point that I think is very important for understanding this program, is that these are people who really had no chance in life. Many of them, when I talk to them, they say, well, I got married at 14, and then I had children, and then my husband dumped me, or he became an alcoholic, or some tragedy happened, and so I'm now 28 years old with 3 children and no livelihood. What do you do? I beg. I go when there is, when there is sort of this season when the rice gets harvested, you can help in husking the rice. So there's some little jobs that you can do, seasonal, but rest of the time I beg. So that was a typical person. And I think in the world's vision of such people, I think that our inclination is often to ask the question, well, how could it be that your life is so dire? It must be that maybe you were originally, gifted or talented, but at this point, you have no ability to sustain yourself. That's why you're here. And I think what the challenge of this program is to prove that wrong, to say that even people like these, and maybe specifically these people, because in a sense they've never had a chance, there may be even uniquely, their potential might be even higher than other people, because other people, even normal poor people, have had a chance. Some of them have been successful, some of them not. Some of them have made a lot with their chances, some people have made little. These people have never had a chance. So among them, there might be really extraordinarily talented people, precisely because their life was structured in such a way that they never really, nobody even asked them, here is your one opportunity, take it. And this was the first time this happened. So in that sense, it is a remarkable moment in their life, in a way that it wouldn't be even in the lives of other people, poor people, but not necessarily that poor. So I think it's worth keeping in mind in thinking about what's the most important, drivers of the success of the program. So what a program, I mean, to continue, then we've been following these people for 10 years, then now I think this year we're going back, it'll be 17 years since I think we started, since the randomization happened, and we'll go back and collect data 15 years after the program was finished. And I think at that point we're going to see if we still have an effect. But 10 years from the beginning of the program, we found that they were 25% richer. That's more than the 18% that we had found at 3 years. So it was growing. The difference was growing. Now, it's not because the world was fixed. In fact, if you look at the control group is twice as rich now. Why? Because there's NREGA, wages have gone up, many things have changed, mostly for the better. And that's worth saying. So the control group is twice as rich, and these people are therefore 2.5 times as rich. It's because they're 25% richer than the control group. So they've got a lot richer. How did they get that much richer? Not just because they got some a cow or some trinkets. Because the other thing that's striking is that at 2 years, basically the income gains, most of them come from what the asset they got, mostly livestock, agricultural income. At 3 years, you start to see that they're starting non-agricultural businesses. At 7 years, most of the income gain, which is bigger than at 3 years, comes from non-agricultural businesses, not from the cattle. At 10 years, even more, they're now older. The children who were 7 or 9 or at the time of the program are now 17 or 19. And therefore, they are now looking for livelihoods. And we see that they are able to send their children further away to look for jobs. So most of the children of the control group go to Kolkata. The children of the treatment group go to Surat. They make more money. And so the big income gain at the 10-year point is from migration income. The point is that these are not only are they remarkable in defying this prejudice we have about the fact that these people, they're sort of helpless and probably hopeless too, in defying that, but also in just taking charge of their lives. It's not that we handed them a cow, they took care of the cow. They now, as soon as they get the chance, they start thinking, okay, I'm going to do this other thing. You heard the woman saying what she wants to do. But we find that in the data. So it's what's remarkable about this story, and that's what makes me excited that it's being done at a much larger scale, and that we will see, results from many more different pilots. We will see many different efforts to do it. Is that I think that what this proved, I think to a point where I think nobody actually imagined that indeed it is true. I mean, it's often say that yes, everybody has talent, but I don't think anybody has as comprehensively shown it, because these people were seen as being the ultimate hopeless boundary of society. They were really, even in the village, they were not included. And I think the fact that they can do it says that it's really true that everyone can do it, everybody has it in there, and that we need to therefore first not lose our optimism. If some programs are not working very well right now, we should take the assumption that we can make it work, that we can change it. We should experiment more. If it's not working, we'll experiment more, make it work. Because I think we know that it's there. The capacity is there. And I think if we are failing, we are failing. It's not they. I'll stop there. Thank you.